Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 8th webinar in our free 10-part educational series for the year, Bookkeeping Fundamentals and More for 2020 Vision. Today we'll be discussing that the BAS is due, accounts payable and receivable, HubDoc, a whole lot of really interesting little bits and pieces that we absolutely need to know. And this lady needs no introduction, I'm sure. Our specialist, Sarah Eldridge from Trinity Bookkeeping. Welcome.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, 8th webinar, and my goodness, it's the end of September and Christmas is around the corner.
I know, can't believe it. Somebody sent me how many days to Christmas the other day and I just blocked it. I just couldn't look at it.
And you know what? When we started the year, actually last year when we were planning this together, remember we said 2020 vision, it's going to be, a clear vision, isn't it? You couldn't see, when they say people have 2020, it's clear vision. And that is just not the case this year.
Clear as mud.
Clear about this year.
Clear as mud. No, I know. It's just crazy.
Exactly. So, let's just get started, and I will share with you our PowerPoint, which basically what we're going to be doing today is talking about the end of this first quarter of 2021. We are going to be discussing a few points basically around BAS as it's end of September. Let's just have a chat about BAS. Let's talk about debtors, and then a few other things that are important to get the BAS done quickly, efficiently, and how to make sure that you got your cash flow and start working on getting, people to pay your outstanding. Okay, so let's just have a chat about BAS. So as you know, the BAS for the end of the first quarter is due on the 28th of October. That's around the corner. So what that means is that obviously you have finished the BASs for last financial year. And strangely enough, I got calls from two businesses just last week who hadn't finished their last quarter BASs yet. Yes. And so they are not alone. Let me tell you, there's a lot of people out there who haven't had a chance to finish last financial year.
Interesting you should say that. So I've done the last two BASs on time, but I had to have a look at them for some reason, and I realised that I had classified the grants and the JobKeeper and what have you incorrectly in my BAS. So I had to go in and do a revision. So now is a really good time to get your accountant or bookkeeper to go in and just make sure you've done it right before you put in the next BAS. Because we've got so many things we've never dealt with before in this last couple of quarters that you think, oh yeah, no, I've done it right. But then you might have classified it incorrectly. And it was just an incorrect classification. I didn't put it as BAS excluded. I put it as GST free. And so it didn't play any part in the figures per se, but it was on there as an income. So I had to go back in and change that. So that's just something that really needs to be looked at carefully before you finalise the last financial year BASs. Sorry, I just thought a good time to point that out.
That's right. And so that brings us to the point that you raised, which is what is BAS excluded and then what is GST free? So those are questions that are very important because they will affect your numbers in your BAS. So if you say something is BAS excluded and it's an income that has come in, you won't report it in your figure as your sales figure. Your GST figure obviously will be correct, but the sales value will be different. And that will make a difference also because when JobKeeper asks you for your GST sales,
Correct.
the grants that you get are not included because they're not your GST sales. And as you know, every month we need to, if you're on JobKeeper, you need to give your projections for the next month, and you need to have your actuals for the previous month. And if you put that as GST free, you're going to, in your records, or when you run your reports, it's going to show up there.
And then as JobKeeper is finishing this week coming, for some, well, it's changing to JobKeeper 2.0. That is a really important factor, because if your sales figure is too high, you won't be eligible for JobKeeper anymore. So you really need to be careful and double check that, definitely.
Yeah, whether you're getting GST. So so what I've done with my clients is you create a new general ledger code for grants and one for JobKeeper, so that when you do run your reports, you can actually see the difference between the income that you got from your sales, other income, which you could have classified and renamed that general ledger code as JobKeeper, government income, or grants, state government grants, and so on. And you can actually see that in your profit and loss. So that makes it a lot easier as well to go, oh, okay, why are my numbers looking weird? If you classify them, obviously you don't want to have too many classifications within your chart of accounts, because I've also seen some people classify the most minute differences. For example, printing versus stationery. You can just put them all together, obviously. You know,
that's right.
So when you're looking at your chart of accounts, you've got to be discerning as to what is the purpose of why you are including that as a new general ledger code, and in this case, for sure, it holds a purpose.
Big time.
Big
We
time.
don't want to make ourselves ineligible for something that potentially we're eligible for. I mean, the government will never hand out money like this ever again. So, and it's really, truly helping businesses, small businesses, just hang in there until all of this is over. So, something to be very mindful of.
Yeah, and talking about governments and the money that we're getting, it was a pleasant surprise for this in September, when you put in your JobKeeper figures and you got 3
weeks. I know. I looked at that and thought, oh, that's nice.
That's nice. That's an extra 1,500 there, and that. That was fantastic. And I always love giving, I always love giving good news to my clients. So as soon as I saw that extra after I'd submitted on their behalf, I gave them a call, because of course you want to be told, thanks, Sarah, it wasn't me, really.
We celebrate the small things, the small wins, and that was certainly a small win and definitely worth celebrating.
It was. So JobKeeper gets affected, so just be careful about that. And also, when you're first setting up with the JobKeeper on your software, for example, with Xero, with JobKeeper, if you paid or if you pay your employee more than the JobKeeper amount, then you don't have something called a JobKeeper top-up. If you pay less, then you have a JobKeeper top-up. And with JobKeeper, it's up to you whether when you're doing that top-up, if you're going to give what do you call this? If you're going to give super for that top up, it's your discretion. So there's some people who, if they haven't set their books up correctly, they might be giving super for the top up when they shouldn't, or they didn't want to. It's because that is an extra cost.
It is an extra cost, and it is a business decision that is individual, you know, for
Yeah.
what's good for my business, and my decision for my employees might not be good for your business. So, you know, my business might not be able to afford that little bit of extra super. It might only be a little bit extra, but, you know, it can make or break a business. So yeah, it's a business decision, and it's something that you need to be aware of again. Yeah.
And with the BAS coming due, so is the super coming due around the same time as well. So now is the time for you to start thinking, well, if you haven't already, how am I going to pay for that when it's coming due, right?
You need to
So
have it aside, perhaps, or hopefully some of the grants that you might have received, you can put aside to pay for it. Or you might be in a great position in your bank account, and you might be able to pay for it when it's due.
And talking about grants and so on, there's a third grant that's available now. And you know, if you are on JobKeeper, then you can apply for that grant, and every little bit of income
Helps.
yeah.
But also you need to be registered for work cover. So that's really the only catch there with that third grant. You have to be registered for JobKeeper, and you have to have work cover. Just so you know.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the businesses that I know was not up to date with their work cover payments. So they had to quickly go and make those payments, get the certificate and provide that as well.
Yes.
So look, if you're not up to date, we'll get on with it and get up to date, because not only will it
It's worth it.
yeah, it's there to protect you and your staff, but you know, by paying a few extra $100 there, you could get a couple of thousand through the grant. So that's
Absolutely.
so when we're talking about now finding the money to make those payments, what are we going? Where are we looking? So as you know, when we do our BASs, most of our small businesses are registered on a cash basis. And we've spoken about this a lot before.
Webinar 1, for those of you who haven't watched it.
Yeah, go back and take a look. But so if it's on a cash basis, what you're saying is only the money that has actually hit my bank account is what I will be reporting on. What about the invoices that you have sent out that haven't been paid?
Haven't been paid.
Yeah,
Well, that's money that should be in your bank account. You know, essentially, your debtors are using you as a bank.
that's right. And so that brings to 2 points. One, are your accounts receivable, or the list of invoices that haven't been paid, are they accurate on your system? That's number one. And number two, how old are they in terms of how long has it been since you've chased them up, and are they really, you know, is it, has it been a while since you've looked at them? And
I mean, they could be 90 days plus outstanding.
that's
And,
it.
and to me, if you've got a debtor in 90 days outstanding, a little phone call to them saying, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? How are you coping through COVID? You know, will go a long way. It might give you an understanding of where their business is at, and they might really appreciate that as well. So, you know, again, it's just touching base with them, building that relationship, and they'll be more inclined to pay you as soon as they can.
Yeah. And what I've done in the past as well is send an email as a reminder, and then follow up with a phone call. That way,
Absolutely.
you know, you've let them know. And also maybe in the email, if you just suggest a payment plan, perhaps.
Yes. Yes, I always find that's really nice. Just say, look, just a gentle reminder. We noticed that you've got X amount in 60 days outstanding or 90 days outstanding. You know, is there any issue with this invoice? something like that, something very gentle, a nice gentle reminder. There's no need for harshness these days. I mean, everyone's struggling in one way or another, and you don't know what's going on in anyone else's life, basically.
Mm.
And then say, look, if this is a problem, quite happy to work out a payment plan with you.
Mm.
Please see below for a suggested payment plan that might work for me and you. Just,
Mm.
try. Yeah, it's be kind.
Be
Be
kind.
kind.
Yeah, that's what we need. But also, on the other hand, for those people who aren't able to make the payments, just come out and say, look, I'm having a difficult time at the moment. How about I do this? Thank you for being understanding. Because the worst thing is that when you call someone and they are aggressive so that you back down,
Yeah.
and that is a hard thing to deal with. And no one wants to be calling and chasing up with, things that are due and so forth. No one likes to do that. So where do you look at? So let's just quickly just have a conversation around Xero. So with
Yeah.
Xero, you can go into your invoices and look at all awaiting payments invoices. Right. So if you go to your sales invoices awaiting payments, you'll have the list. You can order them by when they were invoiced. So, and as you go into each invoice, you can actually find out when was the last time you actually sent that bill. I mean, that invoice through to them. Xero gives you a clear idea of when you created the invoice, when you email the invoice, which email you sent it to, and so on. So when you're writing that letter, you can say, this invoice was sent through on this date, there was another reminder on this date, and so forth. But I would encourage not to wait for 60, 90 days. Do not. Try to get the payment as soon as possible after you've sent that invoice off. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I mean,
7.
for example, at your payment terms might be 7 days. If you're waiting to 30 days or 60 days before you first give them a first reminder or a quick call to say, hey, what's going on? They're already well outside your trading terms.
Exactly.
And that affects your bottom line and
Yeah.
affects your cash flow. So
Mm.
it's really important to stay on top of the debtors.
Mm. And what I've also found, though, Joe, is that when you're working and reconciling your accounts, there might be bank transaction lines that will come in to say this is a payment that was made. If you don't apply it against the particular invoice that you have sent out, and you just say, oh, that was income, I'll just quickly do, oh, that was income, I've just received this money, and you classify it incorrectly, you're not matching a payment that you've received against your invoice. And you could think something's outstanding when the person's actually made the payment. And how
Absolutely.
bad does it look? Sorry about that. I'll just call
It's
that
not
person.
only looks bad, people get upset. You're chasing money. Money is something people attach emotion to, obviously. We need it to live. So, that's one way to really put your customers offside.
Yeah.
By
And
chasing something you've already paid.
that's right. It's not a good look for you as well that, you're chasing them and it's like, I've paid. What do you mean I've paid? So
It's just not professional.
I know. And you know what? A little thing that you can do, let's say they paid a couple of days ago and it hasn't really hit your bank, or you could just put in a little line that says, if you paid in the last few days, please ignore this email. Please ignore it. So because they might have paid just a couple of days ago and you haven't had a chance to, or the bank feed hasn't come through or something like that, just to give yourself a little, but going back to looking at your invoices and making sure that they've been matched properly, making sure that it is really outstanding before you go out there chasing the money, and even having an idea as to how much you have. The other day, I went through one of our clients' accounts receivable, and there's 30,000 sitting in there waiting to be claimed.
That's better in your account.
And
you know,
yeah, and this particular business is suffering because they are really badly impacted by COVID. And this is the time to get moving along and actually making those calls. So, if let's say that you provide an ongoing service to a particular participant or a particular client or so on, what you can do when you run the report is you can see how many invoices you have outstanding for the same company. And so you send out statements as well. So what I do is I send a statement and I attach all the invoices as well so that you get to see the whole thing. So you send statements. You can send the statements directly if you want, or you can write a separate note and then give them a call and say, hey, you know what? We have so many outstanding. So yeah. So I think that we've covered that enough in terms of our debtors.
And if you need assistance with chasing up debtors, send an email to Sarah or drop her a line, and between us we've got the manpower. We can absolutely assist you with that.
Yeah, exactly. We can do the chasing for you and
make it easy for you.
Sorry?
We make it easy for you.
We make it easy. We make it easy. And also, if you haven't completed your BASs for the previous quarter, and or if you don't know about, somebody's really interested in wanting me, but so if that's the case, then let us know. Remember, as a BAS agent, we have an extra month to submit on your behalf, and we can do that too. So those are two things. Now, HubDoc, I just wanted to quickly touch on HubDoc. HubDoc is a software that has what they call optical character recognition. So when you take a photo of a particular invoice or a bill that you've received, it reads things and helps you when you are entering your bills into Xero. So this is a third-party software. It's also owned by Xero, but it's a third-party software that you integrate with Xero. And let's say that you're at the petrol station and you get your invoice and you're like, oh, I've got to put that, save that. Just take a photo, log it, it sends it electronically. We on the back end will classify it according to where it needs to go. But it's not like the old days where you sit down and you type in the time, the date, the provider. You don't have to do all that. You just
does it all auto-magically. It's fantastic.
Auto-magic.
So it recognizes basically what the expense is. It attaches the receipt already, so you don't have to worry about that. You just double check that it's allocated to the correct accounts and press save or approve or whatever it is, and it's entered. It's just, do you know how much time that saves? I mean, how many of our tradie clients, or how many of us, you go to the petrol station, office works, when we could get out and about. We might go to 3 or 4 different places in a day and get 4 or 5 different receipts. Then we'd have to manually enter that into a system or into a spreadsheet. Just so much effort required. And then we have to hold on to those physical receipts that tend to fade within a year. So the accountants don't even read them. So this just absolutely automates that whole process and keeps a permanent picture record of the receipt for you. It just safeguards you, because we have to keep those receipts for 7 years. So if they fade in 6 months, we're really stuffed, aren't we?
Yeah, and Another thing is that it's not only taking photos. What if those people send you invoices via, no, sorry, or rather bill tax invoices via emails?
Yes.
You can just forward them on. You get a thing. So maybe you've ordered something online. They send you a document. Here's your invoice. Do you have to print it out? You're wasting the paper. No, you don't. You just forward it on to this. There will be a particular email address linked to your HubDoc account when you set it up properly. And we're happy to help you with setting that up and linking it and so forth. And then off you go. You just forward that on and someone else can take care of that for you if you're time poor, you know?
Absolutely.
And what that
It's automating what we do to make our lives easier and give us more time back in our day. Because, you know, at the end of the day, we don't live to work, we work to live.
yeah, you're so true that. And talking about working to live, we've only got a couple of days before the restrictions ease. So I am hanging out. I'm like, oh, please.
Coffee outside with someone, that's all I want to know.
I just want to get out of the 5K zone. I want to be able to go to the beach.
I know. I mean, we've got Point Cook Beach down the road, but it's not quite a beach. No.
And no, I can't get to Werribee South either. It's outside the 5K zone, and I can't wait to go down the coast and just see the expanse of water and sit up there, Anglesey or Lawn. Or I just looking forward to all of that, and looking forward to actually going and seeing the family who live in country Victoria, which would be nice to go and
my son's in regional Victoria. I haven't seen him face to face for about 3 months now. It's hard, really hard. It's like, what do you look like again?
Yeah. So on that note, I think we will say bye-bye and adios for this month. Next month, we're going to be talking about our balance sheet and our liabilities. We're also going to be talking about how we can reduce the costs that we've got and all the things that come about after JobKeeper 2 starts taking into effect and what we're hearing out and about in the neighborhood. Thank you, everybody, for watching us once again. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at contact@trinitybookkeeping.com.au, and we'll be happy to help.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sarah. Have a great month, everyone. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.